Alright, how y'all doing? I'm back. Had to get the nostalgia shirt for ya. Blockbuster. Yeah, I'm letting you know my age and stuff, man. For streaming, we had to actually go out to Blockbuster. And not only did we get DVDs, we had to get VHS at first. Then these big old tapes, magnetic tapes, and we had to switch over to the DVDs, the little round things and stuff before you can stream everything. So yeah, I brought out the Blockbuster shirt. Yes. Generation X, we run things. Alright, I'm back. I'm here to talk about this book right here. The Eightfold Path. Now yes, it is a graphic novel, as you can see. Right? And it's by Stephen Barnes and Charles Johnson. Alright? So let's get to it. I kind of like this book because, well, it's interesting because one, it is a graphic novel. And I realize these graphic novels, I've read some of them and they are very, very good. So there's two authors. Excuse me. I really want to get into because first author, Steve Barnes, who's a black science fiction writer, and then Charles Johnson, who's a writer of fiction, but he is a black Buddhist, so he combines his Buddhism with his fiction and stuff. And he also writes a lot of non-fiction essays talking about the black experience in Buddhism and stuff, and writing too. But, sorry. Excuse me, I'm drinking water. Sorry. Alright, so, Steve Barnes, right? I did some research on him, and I knew he was a science fiction writer. He's also married to the horror fantasy writer Tannery Dew. I also got introduced to her through a reading discussion. I didn't know that she was very prolific too, but I got to read her too. But yeah, Steve Barnes, just turns out he has like 30 books and stuff, and he wrote for the books for Star Trek and stuff, but he also wrote for the books for Star Wars, no series and stuff. And it turns out he also wrote Star Trek and Star Wars TV series too, and also other science fiction TV series and stuff. And he's way more decorated than I thought and stuff. I just thought he was like a minor. I didn't think he was as big as, say, like Octavia Butler or what's his name, Delaney and stuff. But he is in his own right and stuff. Then of course there's Charles Johnson. Like I said, he won hold up, let me get, because I have this book right here. Right here, middle passage. Next upcoming book I'm currently reading, and as you can see, he won the National Book Award for this and stuff. And he has a whole bunch of other books and short stories and stuff. So he's on his way. So I took the time to get that because it combined my new love of graphic novels with Buddhism and stuff. And as the thing says, the Eightfold Path is basically the way you do Buddhism. Okay? Good. And I've read plenty of Buddhist books and stuff, intro to Buddhist books, but I thought, yeah, I haven't read it in, graphic novel form. So, and basically, there's 8 stories, and they're supposed to illustrate each of the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. I'm not going to go over it here and stuff. I'll let you look up. There's tons of stuff on YouTube. But the way they do it, each story is not an illustration of the person actually doing the Eightfold Path, which is, they'll say, rightfold speech, rightfold action, da-da-da, but the mistake, how you don't do it, and stuff. Which, when you think about it, that's pretty much the best way to learn, is mistakes. You learn from mistakes the best, and stuff. So, yeah, that's why, it was kind of confusing, but I like this, it was different. Basically, they have this frame tale, where basically, you have all these visitors, right? And they're trying to go up into the Himalayan mountains and meet some master, some Buddhist master, right? But he's not there, so they have to wait. And the host says, okay, while we're waiting, why don't each of you all tell a story? And of course, there's 8 people there. And so they each tell a story, and that's the frame tale. And they go into all the tales. I'll give you a quick summary of all the tales and stuff. And another thing, it really shows Stephen Barnes' work, because basically most of the stories are predominantly science fiction and stuff. And as I found out, I came to it because of Charles Johnson, but it turns out that Steve Barnes is the one who wrote the bulk of the stories, and Charles Johnson is more or less like even though he's a fiction writer in his own right, he's basically was a consultant about Buddhism and stuff. So, and these are some good stories. I'd say it's a mixed bag of stories and stuff, but just to summarize them real quick, Tale 1 is basically kind of like Tales from a Crypt. Let me kind of show you a picture, because yes, there it is. Some woman, I think she's like from Louisiana, and she's telling the tale and stuff, and she's barbecuing, and she looks just like the Crypt Keeper. If some of y'all don't know, that was a big television series about the early 90s, and it was basically a skeleton that came to life, and he had this cackle that was just scary and stuff, and she looks just like him, so they ripped that off, right? And basically it's about a young black couple. Pretty much it was apparently taking place in segregated South, and they try to find a place to stay, but they refuse. Like, we'll take your time here. Well, you all go down to Mrs. and Mr. such and such. So they go down to the road, and it turns out it's a bed and breakfast by this old black couple, right? Well, it turns out they put out there that they were really nice, but they weren't. It turns out that this was an old plantation where the master and mistress was really cruel to all the slaves, right? So, and there was a slave there who was brought back over from Africa, because it's like 1801 before they banned getting people from Africa, and apparently he was a sorcerer, and he would, after they would be brutal to the slaves, he would heal them, right? And the master was like, man, I need to, get him to do what I want to, but he was just refusing to do any type of healing or magic or whatnot. So he went to him and said, because they were getting older. They weren't old, but they were getting older. And he said to him, hey, I can, because apparently his wife was getting sick, and he was like, yo, I can cure your wife, make her strong, and do the same thing for you. And I can make you all young forever. You'll live forever, and you'll be young forever. He said, can you really do that? He said, yep. And he was like, on one condition, you free me. He was like, I bet. So when he does his magic, the wife gets better, and they get young. But the word is, they do become young, but they become black. So, yeah. So, but also, they grow old, and they stay old forever. And the way that they have to become young again is they have to steal you from someone else. So that's where the young black couple comes in, right? So basically, cut to about 150 years later, 1940s, 1950s, segregated South, right after slavery's ended, and basically while they're up in the room, all of a sudden they start growing old, and not only do they grow old, they become white, right? So they basically chase. All of a sudden, the couple comes up, they're still black, but they're young again and stuff, and they realize, wait a minute, fuckers, you did this to us. And he said, you sure did, now get the fuck up out of here. And he shoots at him, and then the wife comes up with these dogs and says, get the fuck up out of here, I'm gonna let these dogs on. So they run, right? And instead of them staying together, the woman actually turns on him, he says, man, I can't, we can't outrun these dogs. And she said, I don't have to outrun the dogs, I just have to outrun you. And she turns around and hits him with a stick. And so he falls back, and the dogs get him. She keeps going, but then all of a sudden, boom, she gets hit by a truck. Then all of a sudden, the young couple comes, gets the corpses, barbecues them, and serves them to people. And then the people are eating, and one of the people who's old, who grew up with him, living forever with him, says, oh man, you still cook a new, barbecue. He says, thank you. He says, it's good that you are living there, but don't you kind of wish that instead of you being black, don't you wish you was white? And he goes to his wife and said, hey, you wish you was white? She's like, what's the difference? I can't really get which the right thing to do was that, but heck, crash lands, right? So it gets recovered by like the secret government organization, and they bring in this woman who interprets languages, right? And they can't really figure out what the aliens' language is because it's basically dead, so they're autopsying it, right? But they try to get the guy to give them information, but he's just like acting all stupid and da 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 da. And then occasionally he'd say the language, right? So this woman, she gets a little bit of the language, she tries to figure it out, but all of a sudden, she gets him and he triggers, and he starts speaking only the alien language, right? But then once the alien language gets out in the facility, then people start killing each other. You know what I'm saying? It becomes this weapon, and it turns people against, kind of like how in, I don't know, what's that, Westworld, when they programmed all of the hosts they were trying to escape, but then they went up there and like programmed them to fight each other and stuff. It's kind of like that, right? So it's kind of, it's just it becomes this program, right? And they try to tamp down on it, but of course the linguist gets out and realizes that this is the perfect language, and she calls her bliss and calls her to go kind of crazy, but she's actually in bliss. So that's kind of hard to figure out how those white folks read. But tale 3, this is my favorite one. It's a thug, right? Basically, this is black and white thug, right? Let me show you the visuals on this one, because the visuals in here, some of them are not good, some of them are. Yes, here they are. Okay, here it is. Here they are fighting, right? And they're best of friends ever since they were like little kids, right? And the white one tends to be a little bit more of a leader, and they get through stuff even if they're like backed up. The white dude, he's not as good as the fighter as a black one, but he's more vicious, and he becomes a leader, right? And so they go up and they start making money in the legal business trade. All of a sudden, the black one gets accosted by another older black person. It turns out it's him, but it's from the fucking future, right? And the future him, like, he pulls a gun on him, like, hey, I got information for you. And he tells him how when they get older, his homie becomes a politician. He's a corrupt politician. He uses his connections and he becomes even more rich, and then he becomes a politician. And then he says, another time he'll betray me and stuff. So instead of you sitting here letting him betray you, kill him now. Kill him now. Okay, take advantage of it. Learn from my mistakes. Because he's all beat up and scarred and stuff. And it turns out, even though his man got up big, he didn't really give him a high position or anything. He just kept him kind of low and kept him as like his top thug and stuff. But he didn't elevate him either and stuff. But kept him around. So basically, he sets him up. It turns out that his girlfriend and him were cheating together. So he lets that go on. He catches him one day and shoots him, right? Shoots both of them and lets him take the fall for it and stuff. So then he takes over the legal business, and then he becomes a corrupt politician and stuff. And he's constantly watching his back, and then he starts regretting, like, man, was it really worth it? Then all of a sudden somebody comes, kills him. So that's another tale. Okay, tale 4. Yes, 2 cyborgs in the year 4189. Basically, they're having an affair, and they work at this place where they rebuild things, right? And she becomes so obsessed with it. She wants him all the time, right? But it gets to the point where she gets so obsessed that she wants to go and do this experimental drug, right? So they and the drug will help them stay together forever with sex, right? And I'm not really understanding. Basically, they go to this, this sex place, right? We can go do all types of stuff, and so it turns out like her, because she's a doctor, her brother's there, working there, right? And he has the drug, which is like really rare. So they take the drug, and it turns out the drug actually, when they take it and they have sex, they die. So that was her idea of bliss, to go out in the middle of sex, right? Well, it turns out that they're dying and stuff, right? And they're going crazy, right? And all of a sudden, both of them, they start to just, because they're cyborg, they just go all crazy and starts coming apart, right? All of a sudden, some dude comes in and saves her and stuff, and turns out it was all a test. Turns out that the dude that she was with, that he wasn't cyborg, but he was just totally fake. He was just total robot. Everything about him. Like, she was born really, but then had stuff augmented, so she was half in between cyborg. He was all cyborg. All his skin was artificially made and blah, blah, blah. He's straight artificial. Even though they actually used actual skin, skeleton, and had enhancements in him, he was manufactured and stuff. And it turns out he was like a sex doll. And he was part of an experiment. They wanted to see, they had these weird experiments. And she was just used and stuff, right? And so she accepts that, right? And instead of letting her die, like I said, they bring her back to life. She was being used, and they put her back to the, and then as she's working, where she recycles the build stuff, all of a sudden, his corpse comes about. And instead of rebuilding him and stuff, she just knows him in college. So I think that's about, obsession. So Tail 5, right? That's called Temples of His Gods. Basically, this is kind of really, it's one of the most straightforward ones. Basically, humans have started colonizing the rest of the galaxy, and they're in this battle with this being called the sponges, because they look just like sponges. They're trying to get, here they are. See, there they are. And that's like the main leader right here. She's a female. And there goes the sponge and stuff, and they're just doing battle and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And this is just really, and so basically, they crash in on this place, on the planet, and this planet, they're going back and forth battling about this planet, and humans are not really supposed to be there, set at a certain time, certain place. They end up landing in a place they're not supposed to. So they get attacked, right, by one. They keep him as a hostage, right? Come across him and start fighting him. All of a sudden, this big creature comes out of nowhere and just attacks both of them, attacks the humans and the sponges, right? And so basically, they realize, hey, we can't win if we keep fighting each other. We got this big thing. Let's call a temporary truce and fight together. So that's what they do. And they fight together, and they realize, hey, we're not going to kill this big-ass creature. We need to run, right? So only the sponges can't get airlift off of the planet, but the humans can. So the sponge leader gets the human leader to make a promise that they won't attack them. They'll just basically be neutral, get them off the planet, and then they return to the thing, and they both go their separate ways, and they'll fight another day, right? Well, it turns out the human leader gets killed, right? But the second in command, he brings them on board and keeps the word. Even though the people in the area that picks him up is like, what you doing bringing these sponges on board? You should have killed him. It's like, hey, Captain gave her word, I'm going to keep it, right? So he kind of gets like in this like friendly friendship with the sponge leader, right? They get back to safety, right? They negotiate things, blah, 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 blah. They decide to keep the word and let them go, right? And basically, the sponge kind of thanks him for keeping his word. He's like, hey, principle's a principle. So I believe that means, kind of keeping your oath, keeping your honor, keeping your dignity, and stuff, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't keep their honor, their word, and their dignity. Tale 6, that's the nun. This thing was kind of weird. I can't really know. It's obvious that she's a mercenary, right? And basically, she gets hired by the mother of like some former co-worker and stuff. And apparently the guy had this data chip and he like hid it underneath his skin and stuff, like I believe in his leg and stuff. So she has to basically sneak into this place, pretend to go to a place, but if they got to then sneak into the morgue, secretly get it out and then go, right? And she does that, everything's going cool, but then all of a sudden the place gets attacked by fucking some zombie people or something, and she has to go and run. You know what I'm saying? And this whole time she's like in deep thought. And to be honest with you, she kind of goes all over the place, right? And but she eventually gets out, and she goes to like the family and stuff, because apparently the woman who hired her, I don't know, it's kind of really weird, but she basically ends up going to the family, and she goes to the grandmother, but she has the data, but for some reason, the grandmother's just like, hey, give that to them, and then she hires her like for some other thing and ends up killing her, right? So that was kind of a weird thing. I don't know what the tale, what it meant, what part of the Eightfold Path that represents. But tale 7 basically is called the Gauntlet. Basically, that's pretty much about this old war, right? And it wasn't a science fiction one. The Nun, Temples of Madras, blah, blah, blah. But this is like just present day. And basically, this old man is walking on the floor, and this young cat pulls a gun on. He's like, give me the money. He's like, I'm not going to give you the money. Basically, you hear this tale and learn from it. Then I give you the money. He says, okay. Basically, this boy, it's about him getting back to a gang in case he keeps on getting picked on, right? And the gang basically takes over the neighborhood. It turns out the janitor there is an old karate warrior, you know. And basically, he was a champion and stuff, but then somebody attacked him and killed him, and he went to jail, and he came out and stuff instead of keeping and his school is gone. It wasn't his school, it was just mental school. And instead of him keeping up the practice, he just lets it go and stuff. And then as he becomes a janitor and lets his career as a champion go, the neighborhood just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And then the gang takes over the neighborhood that the boy was forced to do and keep people off of mine. When he gets pissed off, he's like, man, fuck it, I'm just gonna... And he jumps. And he's old, he jumps a whole bunch of them one day, right? And he just kicks their ass, right? So they're like, fuck it, they're gonna be that the big dude, the real fighter. So the fighter comes, kicks his ass too, right? But he's so hurt, right? They ask to go to the hospital, but the big guy respects him, right? And he's like, what you want us to do? He's like, I'll let you know when I come back to the hospital. Comes back to the hospital, and they end up becoming his students. And then they end up cleaning up the fucking neighborhood. So, it's kind of a story of redemption, but I really don't see how, because he wasn't a bad dude, he just kind of let things go. I mean, even when he went to jail, he was actually just defending himself, you know, because some robbers tried to get him. So, kind of weird, you know what I'm saying? Tale 8. This is called The Savior. Basically, humans are basically kind of just in this real fucked up position where there's not a lot of food, people are not caring, they're letting the environment go to shit. So they basically hire, and they pull together and have a supercomputer. A supercomputer is supposed to solve things, right? But it doesn't, it just kind of calculates shit and comes out with more bizarre, leaves more questions than answers and stuff on how to solve things on a crisis, all these crises, the populace and so they basically go and hire 3 religious people, like a rabbi, African spiritualist, and something else. And they really can't do too much. But they write up a report and they decide to just put it in the computer. And the computer basically, once they put all this information in, and the computer tries to solve it, it kind of turns into like this god. You know, it's like all of a sudden it metamorphoses, but it looks like different things to the different 3 people. You know, it looks like one thing to the rabbi, then it's like the second thing to the African spiritualist, and then the third thing to the other person. You know what I'm saying? You know, so that was kind of weird. I can understand transcendence, but the way it was done, it was like, okay, yeah. But then that's when it turns out, at the end, when it kind of works, because I like the pictures at the end, because it explains it even more than me. So there goes the thing transforming into other beings and trying to look like different things to the different religions, right? all of a sudden, it kind of jumps to, and instead of going back to the cave, all of a sudden, it's a spaceship, and the person that was the host turns out to be like this kind of cyborg computer thing, right? And as you can see, they like kind of wake up and stuff, and it turns out that instead of them being, kind of put it this way, instead of them being in this cave and the Himalayas waiting for a master, right? It turns out that they're on a ship, right? And that they're actually going to colonize some world, somewhere else in the galaxy, right? And it turns out that that little cyborg machine that was like kind of keeping watch over everything was trying to how to become a better caretaker of humans, right? But first it was watching their dreams, but that didn't work. So he went and got the leaders and kind of like separated them and put them into like this dream-induced sleep that was kind of like the Matrix and stuff. And then he would put them in these different scenarios. Like in the thing he says, like he's had like 100 different scenarios to try to teach him about them, what's the best thing for them, right? And he basically, ends the whole thing, and then the people that come to say, oh yes, I remember we were taken out of the sleep pods and put into the, the whatever thing, to go into the virtual reality matrix and stuff, and so now they're at the end of the trip, and he's like, hey, thank you for teaching me about yourselves. I think I can serve you all better. Now we're about to land on this planet. Let's wake up everybody and colonize this planet and live a good life as much as I can. So that's kind of the gist of it. To be honest with you, like I said, I'm not going to repeat all the Eightfold Path. I've read it 50,000 times before. You can read it anyone else. I like the stories. They were very good stories, and they did teach. They all were very good at teaching lessons and stuff. But it wasn't clear how it illustrated each thing that you're supposed to do to the Eightfold Path in order to get bliss through the Buddhist path. You know what I'm saying? That was the one thing. Like I said, I like the whole flame tale, and then it was a deception. It was actually another tale, and then each tale, it did teach them, but I can't really. I think they should have probably said, okay, this is this step in the Eightfold Path. This is right speech. This is right action, etc., etc. Then I could see how, okay, this is what they meant. So I think as far as a teaching thing, it did not succeed so well. As entertainment, yes, it was. These were very excellent stories, and I like the visuals. This is a good visual. I can just really go, all day through all of this. Just bam, bam. It's just great visual upon great visual. It's just, everything, every story was just, it was very well told. Like I said, it, told things, and, you did learn some principles and stuff, you do better morals and whatnot, but I think they should have been blatant about which step in the Eightfold Path that they were talking about. That probably could have gone a long way as far as a teaching instrument. If you are a first person and you haven't read as many books on Buddhism as I have and stuff, you haven't been meditating and blah, 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 you probably don't know what the hell they're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Because just as far as the teaching, this is probably for people who are like scholars in Buddhism and they know the Eightfold Path. They got it memorized and stuff. So the people that are not, I don't think that they're actually learning. If you want to read it just for entertainment, it's very good. Very, very good. Like I said, I haven't read too many graphic novels, but, the ones I would have to put this up there. So, as far as entertainment, I'm going to have to give it thumbs up. But as far as actually instructing, specifically teaching as a teaching thing, to teach the Eightfold Path in order to become Buddhist? No. I mean, I did like the fact that they went there and showed the mistakes people make and not following, because I do believe that mistakes teach you better than people who are successful. I do believe in the thing called failing up, because mistakes are the best, teachers. But, as far as the way they did it, because they weren't clear what action that they were talking about, kind of bad. So, but, you can still read it if you want to, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm just kind of just keep on going. Right now, I'm reading the passage and stuff. This is a great book. I'm not going to get too much, but it's very obviously just like, in the vein of Moby Dick. It's so good, I'm only probably about a third of the way through and stuff. It's a thin book. It's real easy to read. Can't wait to enjoy it. So yeah, if you want to go do this, go ahead and stuff. If you're looking for Buddhism, I suggest that.